Hey, what's up, you all? If you are a job applicant in today's highly competitive job market, you probably are running into a situation where you're just seemingly applying for job after job after job, submitting resume after resume after resume, applying to tens and sometimes hundreds of jobs, and it seems like you're getting nowhere in your job search process. Well, the problem might not be you. It could very well just be your resume. What I mean by that is that your resume might not be formatted for an applicant tracking system or an ATS. What is an ATS? An ATS is an HR software that does a lot of things, including send those automatic emails. We're deciding to move along with somebody else who more closely fits our needs. But more importantly to you, an ATS is used to rank your resume against the job description and what a company is looking for and against other people who are applying for that position. Let's go ahead and jump to some of the things that you should do to make your resume more compatible for an ATS. The first thing, and probably the most important thing, is using a traditional resume format. Basically, don't use a template. Now, there is an exception to this rule when it comes to templates. If it's a template that is purely text-based, like a Microsoft Word document that has no type of tables or graphs or text boxes, you should be good with using that type of template. But if it's a template that has images, fancy fonts, like inconsistent formatting, just letters and boxes and all type of formatting all over the place to try to make it look more fancy and graphic, then you don't want to use those types of templates. The best advice that I could give you is to just open up a Word document and start typing your resume from scratch. The key thing to remember here is that your resume has to be, in most cases, when you're applying for a job online, your resume will be going through an ATS system first. And so this system has to be able to effectively read your resume. If there is these things that I'm saying here, a lot of them don't necessarily apply to if you are handing your resume to a person. So you want to make sure that the computer can read your resume with as little to no issues as possible when you're creating your resume. So things that you want to avoid again are text boxes, tables, graphs, images, icons, emojis, fancy fonts, overly formatted documents, inconsistent formatted resumes. Those are the key things that you want to skip out on when you are creating your initial resume to submit to an ATS system. Now, the second most important thing that you can do when creating an ATS compatible resume is making sure that you include keywords from the job description. Now, you want to look for industry terminology, technology, processes, and those sort of things that are included in the job description, and include those into your resume if possible. There are probably, interchangeable terms that you say, oh, well, this means the same thing that I already have on my resume. But I would say just go ahead and change it to that term or process or phrase that's included in the job description, because we know that those are the keywords that's being programmed into the ATS to look for. Now, the ATS can be programmed to look for, like, I guess, auxiliary words or substitute words, but we don't necessarily know what those words are. We can, make a guess. So to be safe, if you can convert or, translate those words over into your resume, then do that. With the keywords, also, it's important to make sure that you're not including too many of those keywords just to make your resume rank higher, because some ATS, the more sophisticated ATSs, are able to, in a sense, identify that, or it might throw up a red flag when it's scanning your resume if it's like you've done this thing 1,000 times. And another thing I want to talk about really quick with this is the main place that you're going to be able to do this is in your work experience. So you want to make sure that you maximize that work experience to include those keywords. So make sure that you're looking over your work experiences and what you have typed out or what you want to write out to make sure that you can include as many keywords in there and make it sound as coherent and natural as possible. Another thing, and I already mentioned this, is graphics. Make sure that you are not including any type of graphics in your resume when you're submitting it to an ATS system. Now, I know we're in an age where a lot of people like to create, graphic resumes because they look more appealing and they can, you know, convey information a lot more easier with emojis and graphs and numbers and infographics and all those types of things. But an ATS is just not going to be able to read that effectively. Again, if you're handing this to a person, then that's fine. But when you're submitting this online to an applicant tracking system or to some type of, I guess, job board like LinkedIn, do not use any type of graphics in your resume. Now, if you're emailing your resume to somebody directly, that's fine if you want to include these graphics in there, but don't include them in your ATS resume. And to go along with that, don't include fancy fonts. And I talked about this a little bit already, but the ATS system uses a technology called optical character recognition, or OCR. And what it does is it uses that technology to scan the text in your resume. So if you have fancy fonts, things that are very script and cursive looking, then the ATS is going to have issues deciphering what those fonts are. So I would say stick to traditional fonts like Times New Roman, Arial, Courier, those type of things. Now, those aren't the most appealing looking fonts today, but we aren't going for flash right now. We're going for functionality. You also want to make sure that you're using standard resume sections. Now, this is important because the purpose of a resume is to show your qualifications to a potential employer. Now, there are 4 key sections that you need to have in your resume. That's your contact information, your education information, your work experience information, and your skills. Now, there are a lot of other things that you can add in there, like certifications, licenses, achievements, volunteer, hobbies, that sort of thing. But those are all secondary things, and they all really based upon your personal experience and things that you've done or have experience with. But the contact information, the work experience, the educational information, and your skills are the 4 sections that you want to make sure that you have in your resume. So those are going to be the 4 main sections that an ATS system is going to look for when it scans your resume. Also, I know this is going to a computer and it's easy to, just have a computer scan through it, but you want to make sure that your resume isn't too long. I would recommend that you try to keep it around 3 pages, max, because an ATS system can be, overwhelmed with resumes that are too long. Use standard job titles. Some companies might use a more creative name or a different name for industry standard roles. So, for an example, industry standard job title for my professional background is an instructional designer. And some people call it, learning consultant. And it really doesn't say anything about instructional design. So, in my opinion, a learning consultant can do a lot of different things and not just design, training. So, in this example, what I would want to do on my resume, because as a learning consultant, I was still an instructional designer, I would just put instructional design on my resume to make sure that the ATS is picking up on that experience. Because what happens is an ATS can scan your resume and will scan your resume to see how much time you've had in a position. So if I have 5 positions on my resume and 2 say instructional design and 3 say learning consultant, but I've been doing instructional design, task, and work at all of these roles, the ATS is only going to pick up those 2 and say, oh, he's only had 3 years as an instructional designer, where I probably actually had like 8 years, and it kicks me out because they're looking for a minimum of 5 years, or the ATS might not kick you out if you don't meet all the qualifications, but it will rank you lower. So it's important to do that because it also looks at the dates. So you want to make sure that you have at least the month and the year in your underneath your job title or next to your job title when you're creating your resume, so it can pick up the time and add that time up for how long you've been in these different positions and roles to get that total to help you rank higher. So this one, tailoring your resume for each job, and I'm laughing because this is something that I really don't do, and I know a lot of people don't do, but it is very important to do. And I think this is probably the case why a lot of us don't get callbacks or interviews after we submit our resume, because we don't cater our resume to each job role. So I'll just be short with this, and my advice for you would be to at least change the keywords. At least look at the job description for these roles and try to change the keywords. I know it takes a lot to go in here and try to make your job experiences and your duties and all that. That's a lot of work when you're applying for jobs. So I'm just gonna be real and realistic here. I know a lot of people aren't gonna do that. I know a lot of people don't do that. They just create a resume and they just submit it, just go wild submitting the resume. But if you have the time and if you want to increase your chances of getting, more positive feedback or reactions from your resume submissions, I would look at those job descriptions and try to include some of the customized keywords that job description might have in it, because there are going to be a lot. If you're trying to stay in the same role in the same industry, there are going to be a lot of words that will be included in the job description in your resume already. So you want to do that much work. But if there are some special technologies or processes that this company might use, like this company might use Sigma 6, but this company doesn't use Sigma 6, so it wasn't relevant for you to really include it in your resume over here versus including it in this new position that you're applying for. Make sure that you're doing those types of things. Including a skills section. This is important because you will include a lot of your skills in your work experience, but you don't necessarily get the opportunity to include all of the skills that you're proficient in your work experience section, because it would take a lot of space, and at the same time it would probably make some of your descriptions and job titles sound a little funky, trying to make all that fit into such a condensed space. So with the skills section, it gives you the opportunity to add more of those keywords in there, and it gives you the opportunity to really emphasize a lot of those soft skills or durable skills that you have that you might not necessarily be able to include in your work experience section. So make sure that you're taking advantage of your skills sections and including all the relevant hard and soft skills that you have. So this is another optional section, and it may or may not be relevant to you, but your achievements and metrics. I guess I would just say an achievements section. And underneath your achievements section, you can list your achievements and your metrics. Now, like humans, the ATS are programmed to look for specific metrics like percentage signs, keywords like increase, decrease, improved proficiency, those sort of things. So when you're typing up this section or you're working on your work experience section, make sure you're using those keywords like improve productivity or cut costs and that sort of thing, so that the system can pick up on that to help your resume rank higher in the system. So that is important. But again, make sure that you're including things like actual numbers and not the words, percentage signs, and anything like that. Any type of, I guess, mathematical things that you can include or metrical things that you can include in your resume to bring attention to it within the ATS. And also, once it gets past the ATS, which it eventually will, a human will actually see that resume and they can, quickly be drawn to those numbers and metrics as well. So, including relevant education. And let's be honest, certain colleges are looked at more favorably than others. And so an ATS system can be programmed to rank certain colleges higher than others. And saying that, it might sound like a bad thing, but let's kind of like put it into perspective. If college A is good in medicine, and college B is good in law, and college C is good in computer engineering or electronics. And this person is looking for someone who, is a computer engineer, but college A and B also have computer engineering programs, but they're not as good as college C. Then they might want to rank college C higher than college A and B. But we know how corporate America works. We know how the world works, and there's just a lot of like shady things that happen. But that is one of the reasons why the educational component is put in there, because certain colleges have stronger programs for certain fields of study. But you don't want to just leave it to your college education. You also want to include any type of, formal education that you've taken and that you can prove that mastered a topic or have been certified. With that being said, certifications are another thing that you want to make sure you include in your resume, because certain companies do look for candidates to have specific certifications, licenses, micro credentials, certificates. You can include those, especially if you have little job experience. But once you become more senior in your career, a lot of companies won't really look at certificates like that. So if you're just getting out of high school or college or that sort of thing, then certificates will be more of a plus for you, opposed to someone who's like 10 years into their career that they might be looking for them to have certification. So that's just something to take into consideration. Save your resume in a compatible format. Now, this one is really easy. You just want to make sure that you're saving your resume as a Word document, a PDF, or a TXT file. A TXT file is a text file, and it can be created in a program like Notepad. And it's important to save it in one of these three files, because any other format can cause the ATS, issues when it's scanning and parsing your resume. Proofread your resume. This is important because, as you should know by now, the ATS system relies heavily on matching. Now, you could have a technology in your resume that's included in your resume that it might not be built into the library of your um, word processor. So in Microsoft Word, if you're typing in something like Chat GPT when it first came out, Microsoft Word might not have had that built into their library, their grammar library or their dictionary. And so it's saying that Chat GPT is spelled incorrectly. And, it could be wrong and it could be right, so to speak, because you could have actually spelled it wrong, but you're just ignoring it because you already know that this is a new technology, or this is just a weird name that Microsoft Word hasn't, picked up on, or I haven't added it to the library. And you overlook that spelling error. So make sure that you're just going back and double checking anything that has a red line under it. Make sure that you're double checking any type of processes, any type of technology, so that you can make sure that those keywords are being picked up on, so that your resume can be ranked as high as possible. Testing your resume is an important thing, and I'm not talking about just giving it to somebody and letting them look over it for you. I'm talking about submitting your resume to a resume scanner. And basically what this does is an online tool that you can upload your resume to, and this software will scan your resume and give it a grade and tell you what's wrong and what's good about it and what needs to be changed. And there are a lot of, I'm not gonna say a lot, there are several different resume scanners out there that you can go and just do a simple search for online. Just search for resume scanners and you should get some good options at the top. But upload it and see what changes you need to make. From my experience, they kind of work like Grammarly. It's a freemium type of deal where they'll give you some suggestions to help you improve the grade of your resume. But after that, you would have to pay for those, I guess, more premium suggestions that they offer to help improve your resume. So if you really are serious about getting your resume ranked as high as possible, or if you aren't sure about your decisions that you've made while creating your resume, this is a great way to kind of like get a second opinion or to help improve your resume. Use full spellings and acronyms. This is important because we don't know how an ATS system has been programmed to scan a resume. This could be a HR manager programming it to look for the full spelling only, while some might look for just the acronym, while others might want both. So, to give yourself the best opportunity to have your resume ranked high in the, or as high as it can in an ATS, include the full spelling of the word with the acronym next to it the first time that you mention it. And after that, if you want to just use the acronym to save space or time or whatever it may be, then you could do that. That would be my suggestion, but don't just include one and not the other. Now, these last two things are tips and tricks, quote unquote, that I hear people say that they use to get their resume to rank higher in an ATS system. And you've probably heard these two, and it's including information in the header and footer and including white text or invisible text. So, starting with the first one, the information in the header and footer. ATSs are basically just built to scan the body of your resume to get the information that it needs. So if you're including key information in your header and footer, the ATS system is probably not going to pick it up. And in some cases, if the ATS isn't sophisticated enough to read the header and footer information, it could cause error in reading or get your resume kicked out of the system. So my suggestion would be to not include any information in your header and footer. If you want to include something in there, if you have a resume title or page numbers, you can include that. But anything other than that, I wouldn't include it in the header and footer. The second thing, the invisible ink, and this is the one that you probably heard people say that they've used the most. And I guess it kind of like goes along with the header and footer because people will put this white text because most resumes are typed in something like Word and it has, the white background. So they could just type the white text in the header and footer to get those keyword count up, or they can put it at the very bottom. I've heard people say how they, have a couple of lines at the bottom of their resume left over, so they just make the font really small, like a 5, and make the text white and type in all these keywords. That was probably cool and something that people could get away with when ATSs first came out because the technology wasn't that sophisticated. So it probably really just was searching for those keywords and the years of experience and stuff like that. But over the years, employers, when we post everything online, we give the secrets out. So the employers, heard about what people are doing and they're looking at this as something that's unethical, cheating, and they put in requests for ATSs to be able to look out for the white text, or if you have a document with a colored background and you have text that matches the color of that background to make it invisible, so to speak. They, like I said, put in requests to have the ATS pick up on that and notice that. And again, it could cause your resume to be kicked out of the system or to be ranked lower. So make sure that you aren't using any of these tactics that might seem like it's cheating. That's pretty much it for me in this video. I hope you all enjoyed. You can check out my website, www.careerinsights501.com, for tools, resources to help you with your resume, to help you with your career, to calculate student loan debt, to see how much discretionary income you might have if you contemplating on whether or not you need to go to college. You can learn more about my books, the Ultimate Career Plan book, and the Struggle is Real from High School to Careers. Those are both available on Amazon. I am on most all socials at Career Insights 501. And make sure you hit the like and subscribe button if you like this video, and share it with your friends or anyone that you think might need help with creating a resume that is going to be more compatible with an ATS system. Until next time, I am your favorite information disseminator, Carlos, and keep your dreams in sight. Peace.